Welcome to our Go Global webinar series. And this morning we are going to be concentrating on international sales and managing stress for busy exporters. And oh my goodness, in these times, don't we just need some focus on some of that? I hope you're all well. It's lovely to have everybody here once again. We're just going to do a quick introduction, set the scene, and then we'll dive straight into the material. So the Go Global series of webinars is a great programme of support brought to you by the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. And within that package, over and above these webinars and the one-to-one sessions, which I've spoken about before, that are available to you, you have EU exit support delivered by the Leeds City Region Enterprise Partnership, and they've put in specialist and technical support to help you deal with all of the implications around EU exit and getting ready for the UK's new trading relationships. You have the Yorkshire and Humber EU Transition Support Service that is there to provide one-to-one practical support and guidance on the changes and actions that you need to take in terms of rules on exporting, documentation, tariffs, hiring, etc., all that kind of thing. So really valuable support there for you. There is a specialist EU exit legal clinic that's delivered by the lovely Squire Patton Boggs, helping you to deal with all of the legal issues around the EU exit. And of course, the Chamber International and the Mid-Yorkshire Chamber of Commerce, who will give business support on the new requirements related to trade-related documentation, including licensing, EORI numbers, certificates of origin, all of the things that you need, down to packaging of goods, labelling, etc. So some really hands-on practical support there for you. The series of webinars is brought to you by UMI, who are focusing very much on providing business support aimed at looking at the role of marketing and digital in being successful exporters. And we're really happy that you've joined us this morning, and we can focus on international sales and stress today. So this is the list of all of the webinars available at the moment. We are now on webinar number 7. So very much looking forward to sharing that with you. On Thursday, we're going to be focusing on working from home and remote working and how you can create a really great environment that will support your business development. So 7 top tips there for you coming on Thursday. You can book your place still at www.go-global.co.uk. And if you want to watch any of the previous webinars, there is an on-demand section where you will be able to take a look at the recordings. It's my absolute pleasure to be with you here today. I have worked in international since my early 20s. I've now passed the 60 border, so I've got many years experience. Lived and worked in Germany for 14 years, speak fluent German and French and some Spanish. And I now have the privilege and pleasure of working with exporters and with partners focused on helping exporters to grow international sales. And I've done that with my own businesses since 2009. So really looking forward to sharing some of that practical, pragmatic and very effective advice that we've been able to develop working with wonderful businesses like yourselves. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn. You can see my LinkedIn URL there. It would be great to hook up. If you do know how to do it, and if you don't, watch the webinar because I will show you how. That is my LinkedIn QR code that you will be able to scan with LinkedIn, and it just gives you a quick way to connect with me. So we'd like to do a very swift Go Global poll. So if you wouldn't mind typing into the Q&A box, what is it that you would most like to get from this program of support. And as ever, we are looking forward very much to seeing your responses. And I will try to keep an eagle eye on the Q&A box this morning if you do have any questions at any point in time. So please do pop your answers in the Q&A box. What do you want to get most out of this program of support today? I really look forward to seeing what it is that you have to share with us. Everyone's quiet this morning. Normally when we do these polls, it's attracting new global customers is the most important, creating an international online presence, looking to target and develop leads. They tend to be the most favorite. So do drop your answers, do talk to us, drop your answers into the Q&A box. Sorry, into the live poll, I beg your pardon, I'm getting mixed up there. Into the live poll box that you will see on screen. And just give it another few seconds. Okay, all right. So let's move on then to our next slides. I am just putting back up the Q&A box here. So this morning, as we go through the webinar, if you do have any questions, please do let us know. Type them into the box. I have got a lot of great stuff to share with you this morning, but if you do have questions, type them in. It's always good to get that discussion going. So I shall look forward to helping answer those throughout the course of the webinar. So you also have access to free 1-hour sessions with me. You will get a really valuable, lengthy and detailed website effectiveness audit report that looks at how well your website is performing for you. We can look at that in the session. And yes, Amanda. Yeah, I did. So we can look at the Go Global free 1-hour session that can help you to really get to grips with whatever it is that you would like to focus on. Your digital marketing action planning, LinkedIn makeover, LinkedIn lead generation, website internationalization, international SEO and content plan, etc. Yeah, if we could take a look at that, that would be wonderful. And Amanda's just telling me we've had a little bit of an issue with me, actually, because instead of saying poll, I said Q&A. So apologies. We'll now put the poll live. So if you could please send us in your answers on the live poll, that would be fabulous. My mistake, and Amanda, sorry, calling it Q&A and not poll. I beg your pardon. So interesting here. So digital strategy, unusually this morning coming up really tops. That's great to hear. And of course, the one-to-one sessions are brilliant for honing in on your digital strategy and how you can structure that so it really works hard for you. But creating an online international presence, attracting new customers tops, and then targeting and developing leads and managing delivery into new markets. So thank you for that. You must have thought, what is she talking about when I was mentioning the poll and it wasn't then? So thank you for your responses. Really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. We've had some great feedback about the one-to-one sessions. I think that, the most valuable opportunity for you is really being able to step back from your busy day-to-day. And we have a really good, in-depth, informal, this is about you and about you getting the best from that hour, but a really great discussion. about, how you can actually build international sales and take your export growth further forward, whatever it is that you want to focus on. And we'll touch base beforehand, set the scope, do a little bit of prep. I send you your website audit report, and then you're good to go. So hopefully, if you haven't already booked in, please do. There are limited places, so get your bookings through. You will need to email goglobal@weareumi.co.uk to book your free 1 hour session. So do get that email off if you haven't already booked, and it will be my absolute pleasure to help you with your international growth, whatever it is that you'd like to focus on. So, increasing sales and managing stress. And I'd just like to do a real deep dive into this topic, which I think is probably, increasing sales and managing stress in balance is something that all of us as budding exporters and exporters are really focusing on at the moment. There has been so much change, so much really incisive change over the last year, and it's been like a veritable roller coaster. And some of the biggest issues that we will be dealing with today to support you on that journey is, this fear that people have of sales, just sales, and how to resolve that. I see that with a lot of businesses. You're absolutely fabulous at what you do, the technical side of things and the delivery, but sometimes when it comes down to marketing and sales, it kind of feels unfamiliar if that's not your day job. So how can we focus on that? It's not our intention today to turn you into professional marketeers or salespeople, but to give you and share with you the things that will really support you in building your sales and taking care on an ongoing basis of your international business development. We will focus on the stages in the buying process because that has changed over the last 5-10 years, and entering into the sales journey for your prospective client as early as possible will stand you in very good stead. So we will talk about that. We're going to look at the sales process and questions that work and work hard for you. And we're going to really give yourself permission today to stop spending time on prospects that just don't convert. The ones that can take a huge amount of time and effort, where afterwards you might be thinking, wow, that was hard work, and really, was it worth it? Was the return on investment there? And of course, this really important question, sometimes it's just feast or famine. What do you do if it all goes quiet? What are the best tactics for you to adopt so that you can do your best to maintain a steady stream of inquiries and leads into the business? And finally, how to manage stress, overwhelm, and make better decisions. Because ultimately, if you are in a better place and you are calmer and you are more what we call centered and focused, you will manage stress better. You will be able to do your business development better, and that decision-making process, and this is science, we have lots of research backing this up, your decision-making processes will be much stronger. So here we have it, the world is our oyster, and very often it can be more productive to actually focus on your export markets, and actually maybe easier in some respects to look at exporting because there's so much opportunity out there, so many countries and cultures and so many markets that you can focus on, which is almost a way actually of de-risking if you are, just doing business in the UK at present. And the UK can at times also be quite a mature and complacent marketplace. So it can actually be quite hard to win new business here as well. Yes, there are some hurdles that you would need to navigate in terms of exporting, and you will need new skills, etc. But it can be really, really lucrative to hone in on developing your sales in international markets. So the typical business development challenges that we hear are we're not getting enough leads, or those leads aren't converting. They're coming in, the inquiries, but actually they're not converting into sales. You know, where is this not quite hitting the spot? Is it that the leads are poor quality? You're not getting the right sort of leads? Are you just not getting enough referrals? We know that most new business, not just in the UK, but internationally, and it's 80%, actually comes from referrals, recommendations, word of mouth, etc. So it's a really important source of leads for you. And what can you do to actually boost that? And of course, this thing I mentioned about feast and famine can really, really, really get in the way, because what you need is that consistent stream of leads coming in so you can manage that process much easier. And that's such a huge part of managing stress, because you're either crazy busy and stressed and overwhelmed, or there's not enough business coming in and you're stressed because you're worrying about those gaps in the pipeline. So, you know, we'll talk a little bit later about this aspect of fight or flight, because when we are stressed, when we are in overwhelm, the adrenaline kicks in, you know, those stress hormones kick in, and we go into fight or flight. And, you know, we want that to pass as quickly as possible so that we can get back to a place of calm and continue with our day job. And what we find as busy exporters is that actually running our own businesses and dealing with all of this change, that fight or flight response stays with us, and it stays with us far too long and starts to cause issues in terms of our performance, but can lead to stress and obviously mental and physical well-being issues down the line. So it's really important to deal with that as soon as you can. So I've got some practical tools and tips later on in the presentation that take minutes. I mean, some of them actually just take a minimum of 2-3 minutes, that can really just help you to center and just get that sense of calm and focus back very, very quickly. So I'll be giving you some practical tools to take away from today's session as well. First of all, however, just to liven things up a little bit, I have a quiz for you. And this is really geared to focusing your minds on, you know, well, what works and what doesn't work when it comes to sales, and just some interesting questions. No need to jot. Well, you could take a piece of paper and jot it down. You know, we're not going to be checking your answers as such, but do just jot down your answers, maybe on a sheet of paper, and let's see where you get to. So question number 1, what percentage of sales people think that they are being pushy? You know, if you envisage yourself going out and being approached by salespeople, you know, what's your experience? How many salespeople do you think believe that they are being pushy? And I'd be really interested understanding where you are on this one. Perhaps something we could talk about in the one-to-one sessions. I'm going to give you the answers straight away, guys, so jot down your answers, whatever your percentage is. It's actually 17%. And, you know, I think this sort of, and I see it a lot on LinkedIn these days, actually, you know, you connect with someone and the sales message comes straight through, which in my book is quite pushy. I'm not fond of that. And we always have that question in our minds, I think, when we're considering opening up a sales discussion. Well, how pushy are they going to be? Am I going to get chased here? Because I really, really don't want that to happen. So what percentage of prospects, people like you and me, think that sales people are being pushy? So this is flipping the coin around and looking at it from the other perspective. So how many of us think that salespeople are being too pushy? What do you think in percentage terms? And actually, it's much higher. It's 50%. So can you already see that mismatch in terms of our approach as salespeople and how that's being received by the client? So something to really, really be mindful of. What do you believe is the average number of calls that it takes to actually connect with an actual buyer? And this is actually really surprised me when I first looked at this and saw the research and understood the number. What average number of calls do you need to connect with an actual buyer? And it's 18, which is a huge number. But actually, I was doing some international business development work for a CapEx company in the food and drink sector at the back end of last year, and that was probably a good average number. It took a huge amount of patience and persistence to actually get through to the right people. How many people do you believe watch a video at some time during their buying process? And this is such an important factor now, particularly because Google really is putting video as an essential part in your online offer. So how many people watch a video at some time during their buying process? And it's a whopping 70%. And actually, Nielsen Retail Research have shown that watching video online increases a customer's confidence to buy by at least 40%. So some big impacts there through including video. Most videos are product features, how-tos, and professional reviews in that order of popularity. So really interesting to understand how you can present different types of video. What is the best length for a sales email in words? And again, this is really, really important, that you're not sending people too much, because the choice then might be simply to not doing anything. What's the best length for a sales email in words? And the response here is 50 to 125 words, which is really, really short. Mark Twain said, I would have written less, but I didn't have time. So it's really condensing it down, perhaps using bullet points, bold, underlining, and setting it out so that it's really short and crisp and attractive and easy to read. What percentage of buying decisions are made with peer recommendations? That thing when we go out and we talk to people and check, well, what do you think? What would you do? Have you got experience, etc.? What percentage of buying decisions do people actually do that? Give you a few seconds to jot your answers down for yourselves. And it's actually 90%, which is, again, massive. So you can start to understand bringing in testimonials, which are essentially peer recommendations, is really valuable to this process. What are the main reasons, according to Gong survey tool, for losing out on a sales deal? And again, I think this is really interesting. So what do you think? What reasons have you experienced in the business that have caused you to maybe miss out on a deal? And we have here budget, 50%, timing, the proposal or whatever just arrived at the wrong time, or you are perceived as having a lack of authority. You're just not viewed as being someone with authority in your field. So again, budget isn't everything, but it is important in this process. The timing is really important, and lack of authority. So I think some really interesting points there again. And finally, how much more likely are you to have a meaningful conversation if you follow up on a lead in 1 hour? How much more likely are you to have a meaningful conversation if you follow up on a lead in an hour? What percentage increase do you think will come from following up swiftly? And that again is 70%, a massive 7 times more likely to follow up in an hour. And the interesting thing is, from Drift research, 50% of people take 5 days or more to actually follow up on leads. So I hope you found those questions interesting. If you feel so disposed, drop your score out of 10. Share with us into the poll. It would be really interesting to see where you got to, guys, on that one. I know the first time I did that, I was probably a way off. So if you feel so disposed, do drop your score into the Q&A. If you have got any questions, please do let us know, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. So what we know is that the first contact point for new prospects is now much further along their buying journey. And we're going to look more closely at the actual buying journey and understand a bit more about that and where the best point of entry is for you, so that you can start to understand the impact the content you are creating is having on that buying journey, that you can start to understand the impact that having a great LinkedIn profile and developing relationships and connections is on that buying journey. And there is something quite specific called, I don't know whether you've heard of this before, you most likely have, the Google Zero Moment of Truth, Zmod as it's called, which is that time when people actually go into that research phase. You know, they're going to do a deep dive and they're going to research around their needs, and that will inform their future buying decisions. So a really important aspect to think about. So the buying journey starts off with, you know, the status quo. So it's this aspect of, you know, I'm feeling great. I don't particularly need anything at this point in time. I'm just quite happy doing what I'm doing. And you may be making sales approaches to me, but I'm not necessarily particularly receptive to those at this point in time. But it is a great time to develop the relationship and to start building connections and sharing just some social content with them. Then, you know, it develops a little bit further and we get into problems and needs. Problems and needs start arising. The client is starting to think about, well, you know, what am I going to do about this? What are my options? That's when they really start going into this research phase, which is so important. And while they're doing their research, they're actually starting to define and shape the outcome that they are looking to achieve. So as you're researching, that outcome definition becomes more clear and more apparent. Then once that need and the outcome have been defined, it's the time to actually start looking at supplier selection criteria and who are the people out there that have the skills, the expertise, the experience, and the products and services that will be able to help me with this. It may well be that people have preferred suppliers and they're going to go out to them. But obviously this phase leading up to here is a good time to start building those relationships so that you don't get left out. At this point in time, the supplier selection criteria may be when the client's pulling together a tender opportunity, for example. So you will need to decide how important that pre-existing relationship is to your success rates in terms of tendering, because that can also play a role. So they're going to explore the solution and the supplier options and look at what's available and really delve into that and do more research and understand what's on offer, and then assess the solution and look at what is going to be the best fit in terms of, you know, what's been offered, in terms of how it will work for them, the cost, the time, the resource, the practicalities, how it could be integrated into the business. All of these things can play a role. And then finally, we get that decision to buy. And what we are understanding here is the sooner you can step onto that buyer journey and start developing relationships, start to be seen as the go-to expert in your field. And this is taken from the Go-To Expert online program, for which I'm really grateful and have been involved in. You know, the sooner you get into that buying journey, the easier and more effective it will be for you. So there are a number of steps to take that actually can help you be ready for that buying journey that I'm calling the Go Global Roadmap. First of all, and we've talked about this in some of the earlier webinars, and particularly on the LinkedIn webinar, clarify your niche. You know, the more niche you are, the more specialized you are, the easier it is to market to your particular target audience. You know, if I go out as a consultant and I'm saying I can help anybody, any sector, any business to develop international sales, it's quite a hard marketing message to get out to everybody that is effective for them, because they actually want people who've got expertise and experience in their sector, in their business, and they actually want to be able to sift and sort and understand who's going to be the best fit for them. And that always works best when you are able to really clearly state the niche area that you work in and where you can best apply your expertise and experience. The next part is then making yourself irresistible to your clients, giving them lots of reasons to choose you. So what are your UK unique selling points? You know, what would you, how would you set those out? And do they change for international clients? They may vary and be different. And this is a really valuable discussion to have, that we could do on the one-to-one sessions as well, is, you know, what will set you apart from your international customers who are perhaps local to your international clients? How would you distinguish yourself from them and really make yourself irresistible to your clients? That's such a big thing. And then finally, get your message out there. You know, really use your marketing and all the tools and resources at your disposal to get that message out there loud and clear. So quite a lot of social content to build up that trust and confidence, to portray yourselves as the go-to experts in your field, but then the right sales messages so that you can be easy to find, easy to contact, and easy to do business with, no matter where in the world that you are exporting to. So the question for you to ponder on, and this is a great one for your action plan, is how differentiated are you actually? You know, how are you setting yourself apart? And is that working well for you? So taking a short breather, I'd just like to invite you to drop into the Q&A box after that introduction. You know, what are your biggest challenges and stress factors around international sales? You know, what is troubling you the most? What are you most concerned about at the moment? It would be great to share that with everyone. So take a few seconds. What are the biggest issues that you are dealing with at the moment around sales and potentially around the stress of creating new sales? So really keen to see what your responses are here. What is top of mind for you at the moment? And it's usually really interesting to see where different people are actually, and maybe to see that people are in the same place as you are yourself. Perhaps, you know, to compare and contrast with other people and see where they are at. It's really helpful to be able to see that. So do drop some responses here into the Q&A box, if you will. really looking forward to seeing what you have to share with us this morning. So Amanda, I don't know whether you have any comments from clients who say that, you know, they've got lots of stress factors around sales. I mean, typical things that we get is, you know, how difficult it is to find sales. Sometimes managing a sudden influx of sales can be really tricky as well. So lots of things that that can come through there that can just make that more difficult for you. So, well, we will move on. Nicole, thank you so much. Work overload in general. Oh gosh, tell me about it. How often have we heard that before? And you know, I think managing your work at the moment with all of these pressures is a tricky one to do. I think planning can be really helpful, just to get a good plan going and to prioritize. And I've actually got a few suggestions about the 4 R's to just help you maybe say no sometimes. That's can often be one of the more important things, knowing when to say no. Michelle, developing a strategy and having a planned approach rather than a haphazard approach. Yeah, Michelle, you've just reiterated what I was thinking there, and I think that's really important to get that plan nailed down and clear. You can always flex, you can always make changes, but actually having a solid plan there is really important. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, and work overload and overwhelm of getting started can be huge. It really can be quite big. So thank you for sharing, guys. That's really fabulous. So let's get into the actual buying stages and, you know, what these stages are all about, because, you know, your buying journey can be quite fraught. It can be quite tricky. You may have a major issue or a minor niggle that's needs fixing. I mean, I know at No Fuss Group, we've been talking about changing out our CRM for about a year now, and I know it needs improving, but it's a niggle. So we've, I shouldn't say we, I should say me. You know, it's going to take time to understand it, so I've kind of put it off. And we've got a pretty decent CRM. I feel that I just don't know how to use it effectively. So people may be searching for answers to their questions or problems. This is when they might be reading a blog or asking general questions. So a great time if your content can actually help them find answers and demonstrate to them that they have a problem that needs to be fixed, and you will have started that process of generating a lead. But the problem here is at this stage, they're not yet a lead, although some people who are not used to doing sales can get frustrated here, thinking they were a lead and nothing's actually come of it. So one of the things that people want to know at this stage is, do I need to worry about this problem? You know, when you get into the problems and needs, moving on from status quo, you know, they're not yet ready to give off buying signals, but they've got an interest in a specific area. So, you know, getting quality advice from your content is really helpful. Your role in this case is to help them explore the problem and the seriousness of it and what they might actually do about it, and hopefully to motivate them to start thinking about taking action. And the types of questions that you can go out to people with at this stage is asking them open or hypothetical questions that will help them to think about the issue in front of them. You know, your questions will help them to understand what's going on and what will happen if they fix it or they don't fix it. And these are not about selling, it's about using your experience to help them decide if anything needs doing, and if so, what. So, oh, Nicole has got a question here. the challenges that have been caused by the pandemic, staff on furlough, lack of revenue, at the same time they need to work extra hard and smart with a reduced team. Oh, Nicole, that rings so true. I think we're all with you on that one. So yes, looking at the next step from status quo to problems and needs to then this third stage of, I've decided now what I need to do about my problem. You've done some research into the problem and you've got an idea about what you want to achieve. And it could be as simple as doing nothing at all. You're going to live with it. Or you find support for a multi-million-pound 5-year project. So, it could have varying scope and potential opportunities for resolving it in there. But you haven't decided exactly how you're going to solve your problem, but you know the outcome that you actually require. And, people might start thinking about, well, who can help me fix my problem? How much will it cost? How long is it going to take? So all of those really important questions. What do I need to look out for? What are the risks in choosing one course of action? What are the steps in the process to actually fix my problem? In other words, at this stage, people are starting to give off early buying signals. Talking to them about solutions is still not relevant at this stage, but asking them questions that help them to explore the importance of and urgency of fixing it can be really beneficial. This is the point where they will think about how they're going to decide on a supplier, but they're not actually ready to delve into that process at that point in time, but they're sort of skirting around and finding out more about it. You then get right into supplier selection. And this is where most buyers actively looking for a supplier to help them decide on the right solution to solve their problem. They're going to spend time with a selection of suppliers. They're going to delve into them. They're going to research to refine their ideal solution and get clarity about what it is that they actually need to be doing. And, if the buyer's been engaging with you and your content much earlier in their journey, it's very likely that you are going to be taken into consideration and they're going to contact you at this point in time and invite you to put some proposals forward. So when your client gets into this stage, they are really serious about buying and will be giving off very clear buying signals. These are typically questions which check your credibility to deliver and how much it's going to cost. So it could be, where have you done this before? Your testimonials really come into play here and increase their confidence to buy. And what will the work cost potentially? So it's at this point in the client's buying journey that you can start to talk about submitting a proposal and closing the sale. You may even find that the client does the closing for you and just says, well, when can we actually get started with this? And then you've got that decision process. They've decided on the solution. They start looking and considering the best supplier. And, all of this might be not necessarily going to a business-to-business tender. This applies just as much to the retail journey. They've started considering the best supplier for them. If you were with them earlier in the journey, you may well understand or help them construct their decision matrix. How are they going to make these decisions? What's important to bear in mind? It's that content, the top 10 things you need to know when selecting or when considering buying. That information can be really helpful content. So nice one to jot down there for your content plan, to get that content out there to support that confidence and trust building in you in the early stages of the buying journey. Your questions to ask here are really based on what they want and when they want it. And, when you get through to, the words, send me a proposal, you think it might be a good thing, but it may not be because they have no intention of buying. And I think it's well worth mentioning in terms of some countries and cultures, it is well worthwhile qualifying that a bit further, because You know, they don't like the embarrassment sometimes in some cultures, and this can happen in places like China and the Middle East. They don't like saying, well, I'm not interested, thank you very much for your offer. They will keep the conversation going sometimes because they find it difficult to say no. So you need to be cognizant of that and really work to qualify that conversation a bit further. So unless you've heard clear buying signals, such as questions about your credibility, what the cost might be to do the work, and the client has explored a potential solution with you, then send me a proposal is probably unlikely to lead to a conversion. And you need to really reflect at that point in time whether you're going to pursue this because it is a lot of work or not. If asked for a proposal without any early signals, I would actually start asking more exploratory questions and perhaps agree to discuss a draft proposal with them rather than just assuming that you've got the sale. You know, you can go away, you can give it some thought, you can ask them for a follow-up call and a discussion. That often really, really helps with that, just to check out whether you're on the right lines. And it's a great way actually of just seeing whether they're actually serious or not. Otherwise, you probably just need to get out of there. So looking at questions that unlock their needs, what do those questions look like? And just help you to determine where they are on their sales journey and how you might best tackle that. Salespeople sometimes believe that if they've got the killer question that they can win any kind of sale, and that's just not true. Nothing will move the client forward if they are not ready to buy. So sales questions are useful for two reasons. First of all, it will help your prospective client believe that you really care. And let's be honest, we've all met suppliers who don't seem to care about anything other than your money. If you ask good questions that allow the business owner to express themselves, to be heard and understood, you're helping them clarify things in their own mind. So if you focus on them by asking questions, not just listening to that monologue, it shows interest in their problems, and it really helps them to shape what they look like and how you might best work together, or how your solution, services or products might actually help them. So you need to be interested to find out as much information as you can about their problems and how they perceive them. That allows you to play their language back to them and help solve their problem. And we said the questions will vary depending on where they are in their thought process. So, you know, this really helps them understand their problem and its importance, helps them understand their value of fixing the problem, help them understand how it might be fixed, so defining the outcome rather, and helping them understand what to look for in a supplier. So all really, really valid questions. And, you know, when you're faced with tough business development targets, which you might have for whatever reason, it's easy to think that badgering people into buying is a good tactic, but it normally pushes people's defenses up. It really just doesn't work. If there's any sense of urgency about things, people just tend to back off and say goodbye to that discussion. Secondly, focusing on questions also makes you listen, and that's really important. If you focus on active listening, you can focus on their needs rather than just talking about your offer. So the listening and the sales process is really, really important at this point in time. So let's take a look at what we are going to be doing on this buying journey. When we get to problems and needs, we're going to be helping them explore their problem. When it gets to defined outcome, what's the importance, the urgency, and what type of fix does the client actually want? How is this going to help them? And in the supplier selection, you know, where have you done this before, and can you really bring some strong testimonials, recommendations, case studies, really showcase your expertise, the quality of your products and offers, and what great feedback you have got to really increase confidence in these different buying stages. So let's take a look at what we call the ICRR: information, concern, result, and return. So information questions are going to be questions asked to gather information. There'll be open questions helping your prospects to open up and really talk to you. They require them to respond with a relatively complex answer, not just a simple yes or no, so they're sharing more information. But don't stay at this stage for too long. Move on once you've got the information that you require. Showing concern. Ask questions that demonstrate concern. Show that you really care. And I talk about this such a lot, showcasing yourself as the go-to experts, but really showing that you care about the customers and you're putting them first. Probe for and uncover any concerns they may have or any strong desires and reasons for wanting your product or service. This gets some deeper and more specific answers than just the information type questions. So they're really important to delve into this a little bit more. Just finding out what that problem is that they are looking to solve, or what that need is that they're looking for some solutions for, whatever that might be. R is then focused on results. These are about the consequences, the results or implications of the initial problem. So you're almost developing a chain from that initial sort of set of information and concern questions to what's the final result, something worthy of your action that you're actually going to take action on. And a real question could be, well, what impact is this going to have for you on the business? Or how is this, product going to actually improve the quality of your life, allow you to be and feel and experience life the way you want to? How will this make changes for you? These open questions, I think, in this respect can really help you out. But take care not to leave people feeling low. Don't dwell on the negatives too long at this point in time. Really paint that picture of the positive outcome that they are moving towards. And then we have return. These help people build their value. What is that value proposition that they are working towards, and what is it that they have in mind? What's that reward, that return that they're going to be getting from commissioning you for your services or buying your products from you? And it really comes back down to that aspect of stating the benefits to the customer. So not telling them what you do, but telling them what you can do for them, and really getting down to the nub of it, which is how important is it for you to solve these issues, or to, look at this opportunity and really, enter that buying process with confidence. So, at this point in time, it's probably quite a good time to look at the most common reasons for failing to make a sale, because that's really important as well. And 3 good questions that will help you to avoid that. And they fit well into the framework, but I'd really like to just draw these out separately and draw your attention to them as well. So one major mistake is that salespeople go straight into the solution, because that's your absolute comfort zone. It's where you feel most at home, and you can talk, ad infinitum about the solution. And I've had to deal with this myself when I've been selling training services, for example. As a result, there's no strategic link to the work that you propose. If you go straight into solutions and you don't have the context and the why, then it becomes really difficult to actually sell. So imagine you've had this great discussion about a piece of training. They really like everything you've said, and then you get frustrated when you don't get the work. And as I've said, most commonly, it's because you didn't discuss their strategic context, or you haven't explored their needs sufficiently. What are they wanting to do this for, or what are they wanting to buy this for, and really get into their world and really feel it and really understand their wants and needs, what's in it for them. So the 3 questions that will really help you with this are, at the start of the sales process, what's motivating you to get in touch, to explore this, or what's motivating you to make this purchase, and really dig deep. Spend some time maybe on your customer profiling, talking about this, what have been the past motivators, because all of this will open up your understanding. And when you're having these kinds of conversations, do avoid the why question, because that is often taken as being judgmental. So what is it about it, or how do you experience this, or what makes this particularly attractive for you, for example. It will really help them to open up. Another really productive question is to ask, well, what's the risk of doing nothing? If I do nothing about this, what will the outcome be? Because sometimes when we're faced with too many options, and the magic number in neuroscience is 7, once you give people more than 7 choices, the brain tends to just shut down, and the easy decision is then not to decide at all, because there's just too much there. And, what is a really productive question is then to say, well, what's the risk of doing nothing? If there's not a big enough benefit of doing it, then you're going to be in a hard sales situation, and that's just not a good place to be. So exploring that potential of, well, what if you don't buy this, and what if you don't do this? What will things look like then? And really setting that out clearly can be a really productive part of the sales journey. And then finally, how does this help you to achieve your long-term objectives? So you're getting them back to link what they're trying to do. How does this help you achieve your long-term goal of, solving issues in the business, realizing opportunities, or having these amazing experiences through purchasing the products and services that you have on offer? So make sure that you go straight to the solution. Spend at least 50% of your time discussing the context and what they need to do, the return that they are looking for, and the pain if it doesn't get fixed. Why do they need it? What's the return? How does this fit into it? And what's the pain if it doesn't get fixed? Really important to dig into that a little deeper. And I'd just like to spend, I guess, a little bit of time talking about the difference between open and closed questions, because this can also make a big impact. In terms of closed questions, there's a rumor going around that closed questions are bad, and it's not that they're bad, they just have a distinct place, that simple yes or no, but they should only be used when you really want to move things on. Good for times when you want to check your understanding or move something on to the next stage. Is this something you want to do? Or can I just check that you've understood this fully? Or do you feel that this is the right product for you, for example? Sometimes it just gets to that stage where you need to ask those closed questions. Hypothetical questions make them think about what might happen if, and it's often a good time to make them consider other things that they may not actually have thought about. Well, what would you do if X, Y, and Z, you didn't have that and this issue occurred again? How much time is that costing you? Or do you want to continue making do and being complacent and not opening yourself up to these new experiences, for example? So hypothetical questions can be really great. Completely open questions allow, indeed almost encourage the person to just open up and talk to you. They're good to use when asking at the concern and result stages, just to explore that a little bit further. And open questions are also really good at helping you to save time. I think that's one of the key benefits. What is the decision process for this? Can be a really invaluable question in that buying journey. How serious and how are they going to go about making their decisions, to get clarity on that, and who needs to be involved in that decision-making process. What's the time frame for doing this or fixing this? Also a really valid question. Who has the budget for, and when might that be available? Also a really valid question. So think about your closed, your hypothetical, and your open questions, and when you are best able to utilize those. So the next aspect I would like to introduce into the discussion is, one of the biggest time and confidence destroyers that I see in terms of sales is having people that are not qualified take up your time. And this framework helps you to focus on that. All too often, our enthusiasm can mistake a prospect as a lead. A prospect only becomes a lead when they have proactively said that they need your services or they're genuinely interested in buying your goods. And until that point in time, they are still a prospect. It can also easily happen with referrals from networking. For example, you pass somebody who's really ready and needs your services, and if you push ahead before checking that they're really a lead, you might well be wasting a lot of time. Another way it can happen is if you're sat in front of a prospect for a chat, and that would obviously need now to take place online, but you have that discussion, you offer to have a chat. This is where the problem lies. You think because you're having that chat that they're a lead, whereas they think they're having a chat. So just be careful with your time, guys, because time is really, really precious, particularly at the moment. And we don't want to be even more overwhelmed. We want to really manage that process. So unless that individual or that business has really expressed a need or an interest in what you have to offer, which they're committed to solving, they are not a lead. So qualifying your leads, it's really important to have a process and to really think about this and spend a bit of time developing what will work well for you, particularly in the international context where there are all sorts of additional challenges, so that you're not wasting your time with prospects who are not going to buy from you or just don't have the budget or the urgency or the will indeed to do so. So this Duff formula will help you save time. It's really relevant in the buying journey when you get beyond that sort of, I think I might have a problem stage, and they're getting more into that qualification arena. Are you talking to the decision maker? Really important. Have they got a budget, and have they got permission to buy if they're in a larger organization? If you are talking to direct clients, are they really interested in this? Is it the right price category for them? Is it really what they're looking for? Qualifying that, if it is taking time, can be really, really important. Talk about the urgency. What is their time frame for engaging with you or for buying from you? Or are they just exploring and doing some research at this point in time? A bit like me exploring CRMs. I definitely know what I need to get fixed. However, I'm not fixing anything at the minute, and there's no urgency, although having discussions with people is quite useful. I'm really not ready to make that buying decision at the moment because I'm still unsure as to whether I need to just find out how to use what we currently have better, or whether we actually need a new solution. Is there a fit between what they actually need and what you can really supply? And it can be really helpful to be on the ball and quite critical about this. Not what you'd like to supply, not who you think you can supply, not what you're going to stretch yourself to supply, but where is there a really, really good fit? Where does this just feel right? You've got some rapport going with the people and it ticks all of the boxes. Because if you don't have rapport and if you're not ticking their boxes, again, this will be a time-consuming, wasteful process that isn't going to work for you. And finally, what are their funds? What's their target range? What price range do they feel comfortable with? Is there a good match there? One of the things quite useful to do early in the process is not to tell them what it will cost, but to give them some indication and a range of costs so that they get the ballpark. So you can qualify quite early on, is there a way for us to come together here, or are we just way off the mark in terms of, the cost of the solution or the cost of the goods and what they have in mind. And I think here in the UK, sometimes we shy away from those discussions, which ultimately create a lot of stress and cause, can cause a lot of lost time. So, typically to solve things, it would take between 5 and 6 days, and it will cost you between £2,000 and £5,000 or whatever. Or, we have a range of products. They're vary in quality, and the cost is from X to Y. So just setting that out early on so that people have that in mind. And there's still actually that discussion to be had about the value proposition. Not everything is about price. If somebody really, really, really wants to buy what you have, they will find a way very often. So decision maker, urgency, fit, and funds. Really important questions to focus on. And then we have the tire kickers. The other thing salespeople often complain about is the tire kickers. And, I guess it must come from the second-hand car lot days. I'm not quite sure. But there are some people around who are just checking you out. I know sometimes I get exporters saying they've had, people coming on, inquiring and asking for things, and they're obviously just doing a bit of research, could be students or whatever, or it might be people just on a fishing expedition to do some competitor research. So you do need to take care of, the people who don't have an intention to buy. Tire kickers will most likely be very vague when you ask them about their motivations to call you, and they're probably keen to check the free advice that really is free. So they won't have thought much about budget, they're not too serious about the direction that they need to take. And the other classic is to ask you for a proposal before they've really given you very much information. So watch out for all of those indicators. And in a sense, it's about you needing to really qualify them and see if they are really serious in their intentions. Questions to help you uncover that. Well, if they are serious, what's your next step? What are your next stages, and how can I support you with that? When and how should I follow up with you? This is also a great way of ensuring that you're never feeling pushy. Now you're just doing what they ask, but how can I best serve you in terms of, following up and keeping on track? What's your budget for this? If they won't give you one, giving them a price range can be quite good here. And if they ask for a proposal, perhaps ask them for, a meeting or arrange a session online to discuss a draft proposal. And if they don't like the idea, then perhaps they're really not, serious about pursuing that. So some really hopeful, useful pointers there for you, whether you're, I know some of you are in retail. This could be useful with direct clients, but particularly useful if you're looking at stockists, distributors, agents, etc., or other partners, to really just qualify the conversations. So where does the sales pipeline fit into all of this? It's more of, pipeline is one of these phrases that gets used a great deal. Questions that can really help here are, can it help? How can it help? How might things be different if somebody started using a sales pipeline? So sales pipeline is a simple analogy to remind us that our prospects, those people that we're hoping to convert, our leads and clients, are in different places. I mean, obviously, they're in different places geographically when we're looking at exports, but in different places in terms of that sales pipeline. And to get work out of your pipeline, we need to ensure that you're putting enough into the pipeline to be able to manage. So, it comes from initial inquiry through to qualification, meeting and fact-finding or having those discussions, whether that's an exchange on email or a telephone call or an exchange of information. You get to proposal or price definition phase, quality expectations, timescales for delivery or whatever that might be. You get signed up, that commitment is made, you start work, and then, invoicing and fulfillment. So the main things here are all prospects take time to move through the pipeline. You need to know where your leads are in the pipeline and understand, how you can best help them down the remainder of that pipeline to a sale. Don't sell what you're doing just to help them onto the next stage. Really think carefully about those questions and what questions can you ask them to really help with that next stage of qualification, so that you're not putting them off, you're not being too pushy at that point in time. Know the difference between the stages and don't push them to the next stage until they've shown some commitment, until they're ready to move to that next stage. And just be aware, some people are going to drop out of that pipeline. They're going to drop out of that phase. So try to keep a balance of what you're doing. Accept that some are simply not going to convert. If you've got a 50% conversion rate, that may be good. A 30% conversion rate may be good for you. You may be enjoying a 70% conversion rate. So just check these figures and see how you are doing and how you might best be able to improve on that. So keeping a balance through the pipeline to avoid feast and famine is I think important to all of us, just so that we've got that consistent work coming in, those consistent sales coming in. And if you don't have enough coming into the pipeline from your marketing activities and everything that you're doing around content and managing your website and social media and such like, you definitely can't have enough coming out. So that flow and that consistency is really, really helpful. And of course, you need your tactical marketing plan. You need to ensure you've got enough leads coming into the pipeline if you want to get the right amount out, and that equation can help you assess that. It's quite common for the problem not to be a selling one at all, but actually getting the right number of leads in. And here's where a tactical marketing plan helps. Number one, how many leads do you actually need? Revenue over average value of the new assignment times your conversion rate, and that will give you the amount of leads that you need. Where will they come from? Number two, how are you generating those leads, and how is your marketing supporting your sales activity? And number three, are you monitoring and taking action, looking at progress, refining what you're doing so that it works better for you, and taking action? And even the best pipelines where the potential client is really interested sometimes just gets completely clogged up. And, what would you recommend, I guess, is the next question. If somebody goes really quiet, what are you going to do next? And I think, you have some options here which could be helpful for you. Number one is ask them when and how they would like to be contacted again. And, this is I lived and worked in Germany for many years, and this is something really, really relevant there. For example, if you say to a German, I'll get back in touch in a couple of weeks. They will be thinking, well, they're not that bothered. They're not actually that professional. They haven't nailed down an exact date and time to get back in touch with me. So, it may or may not happen. They're probably not going to take you that seriously. But if you say, when would you like me to get back in touch again? How about next Thursday at 11 o'clock? Have you got 10 minutes then, or half an hour, or whatever it is? Then, that is often deemed as being proactive, but it keeps you in control and in charge. And you're the one that can take the next step towards helping them down that buying journey. If your client is active on social media, make sure you engage with them there as well. A great time to be sharing some LinkedIn content, to be engaging with them on Facebook or Instagram, keeping yourself top of mind. And I'm not talking about anything to do with sales, maybe liking their updates, retweeting content, making some comments, doing some sharing, just really engaging, or perhaps even answering any questions, just making sure that they remember you. And if you've not heard anything after a week or two, then send a quick email, ask if they've made any decisions yet, or whether there's anything that you can do to help, and probably pick up the phone. Between different countries and cultures and from client to client, there are very distinctive preferences. How do people prefer to communicate? And hopefully that will come from your customer profiling work as well. Do some people want to talk to us? If I was engaging with people in Italy or Greece or Spain, for example, I would probably pick up the phone. If it were the United States, or if it were Germany, for example, I would probably revert back to email. So, I like to work on a 3 strikes and you're out basis. If you've made 3 points of contact and you've not heard back, then I would leave it sounds like you're really busy. I don't want to be bothering you anymore. So either you won't progress unless you hear from them, or you're going to leave it a month or 2 and then get back to them. So you need to choose what would feel right for you there. If you're then moving into the keeping in touch status, maybe every 4 to 6 weeks, keep checking in. Do they want you to retain contact? Sometimes I'll say to clients, whoa, it sounds like you've got loads on, let's check back in 3 months' time or 6 months' time, pending what issues they are dealing with. So I hope you found some of those useful. The next thing I'd like to focus on is this aspect of price. And people rarely buy on price alone. Even in big tenders, there's normally some other criteria. We often talk about best value. But even when you're selling products and services, price isn't necessarily everything. A very small example of this, I was sat in front of a group of men. It was an e-commerce workshop, and I asked who would pay at the time, and this was quite a long time ago, £15 for same-day delivery. And I said, okay, imagine it's your wife or partner or girlfriend's birthday and you've forgotten to get something. Would you pay £15 for same-day delivery? And of course, the responses were totally opposite. No to the first one and yes to the second question. And that's just a teeny, example. If people really, really appreciate what you have to offer and value it and really want it, there is a way. So, price is, however, the one thing that everybody understands. So if you leave them nothing better to compare you and your competitors, then they will use price. So the adage here is to give them reasons to choose you. So first of all, confirm their needs. That's not just what they want done, but why they want it done, or why they want to buy what it is that you have to offer. Really, really get to understand that. Thinking about the buying journey, helping them think about the important decision-making points. What is it that makes you stand out from your competition? And your competitor research will really give you some solid answers and information on that. Don't tell them that, but make them realize that these are important decision factors. And when they do mention it, then you can confirm that you meet these needs. Show how you've helped others with exactly the same problem as them. What were the results and how happy were the clients? And maybe even let them speak to the client or use the testimonials. And again, the testimonials will really help here, as will the case studies. And finally, remember that the biggest fear is, of course, making the wrong choice and being embarrassed or being frustrated or annoyed with yourself or having to answer questions back at the office. So this is where guarantees can also help. And, as I think about drawing all of these points to a close, I just want to ask you to put yourself in the buyer's shoes once again. The buyers have sat through this sales process, they've been doing their research, they've been thinking and clarifying what they need, and the buyer's pondering over 3 things that you need to have convinced them of. Are you credible as a supplier? Are you as a supplier in that buyer's budget? And what is the value that that buyer is going to get from the products or services that you have on offer? And fundamentally, just knowing that the buyer doesn't want to be embarrassed, is going to want to maintain face and ultimately really appreciate and enjoy the product or service that they have procured from you. So, summary so far. All buyers go through a journey. So knowing where they are is going to save you time. Asking the right questions will help you shape their thinking, which sets them up to progress down the rest of the buying journey. And presenting solutions is definitely not needed at that early stage until they are ready. So the main thing that we're putting across to you here is that people waste time on non-leads where you think it is a lead, but actually isn't a lead. It's just somebody tootling, to use the technical expression. Qualification saves time and will boost your confidence for sure. Questions, more relevant than talking, help you to understand the needs and the why. And, as part of the questions, there's also that listening, that active listening to make sure that you're taking everything in. And having a process for this sales journey and really being cognizant of all of these different elements on that sales journey will stand you in really good stead. So ask how they want to be followed up, what information do they need at the different steps, and help them to get to that next stage in their buying journey. Don't give them solutions too early when they don't even yet know what the problem is and they haven't really properly thought about that, and understand what they need to know before deciding, and ensure that they really do have that information. So, this mindset will save you time. It's going to reduce, it's going to give you focus on the stuff that is really important, on the leads that are really important to you and can convert. It's fundamental to your sales success. So it's going to help with the flow. It's going to help with efficiency. It's going to maximize, the inquiries and their conversion, hopefully for you, and also help to deal with some of that stress and overwhelm from just investing your time and energy in too many things that are not productive. So as I said at the beginning, almost this element of knowing where to say no and step back, but knowing how to qualify to keep things efficient and on track. And I love and he's still the hero in terms of sales, Neil Rackham. You are not selling, you are helping the clients to buy what they want and need. And if you get your marketing right, then you will need to do minimal selling. The best marketing enables the client to turn up ready to buy, literally pre-sold. So what I'd like to do next is really take a bit of a dive again into your customer profiling. And I know we've dealt with this in some previous webinars, but I would just like to dip into it again and clarify some different approaches towards it. So I'm going to take a drink. That was quite a lot of content to take in, you lovely people. And do let me know if you have any questions, please. And I'll just give you a few seconds. If you are typing, you may not be, but if you do have any questions, please do drop them into the Q&A box and I'll do my best to answer them for you. And this here is a customer profile, thanks to CX Marketing up here, who we've worked together with on some recent projects. And, you know, really working at your customer profiling and getting these spot on will stand you in extremely good stead. So I will progress. So there are 4 steps to really identifying your dream client. You know, step 1, decide on what you want to achieve with your export growth and really focus in on that and clarify that. Next stage, complete a client portfolio analysis. Have a look at your customer database for the last 3 to 5 years and really delve into that and look at what's worked, what hasn't worked, what types of clients you've had coming through, and set some criteria for analysing your client base, whether that's you know, B2C or B2B, and just get really familiar with them, really understand the trends and the information that's coming back, and you're going to group those into respective groups, and we've been through that previously. Consider your options. You know, what options do you have for actually targeting these people and engaging with them, and decide on which type of clients you're going to focus your marketing on. Remember that niche marketing will work the hardest for you. So how does analysing your client portfolio or your customer database actually help? Well, it's going to help identify the really profitable clients and what they share in common. And the clients, it's either the low-hanging fruit or the ones that take longer to convert, that are really the ideal customers for you to be targeting. And you really get familiar with them, you understand them, and they're motivators and they're drivers for buying from you. It aligns the team as well. If you are working with a team, having these customer profiles aligns the team to the type of clients that you really want. It ensures that common understanding of your target customers, and it gives you clarity about which clients you can ditch to make capacity for the clients that you really want. Not meaning to sound too much like, you know, let's ditch this and not do that and not do that, but this is so important for building your international sales and really managing your time. And your focus is knowing what's going to work and what's not going to work and what to get rid of, because you may be spending 80% of your time developing 20% of the business, and it needs to be the other way around. So what is working best for you? Where is your focus best invested? So what do we mean by client portfolio analysis? Well, produce a spreadsheet of all your clients and what they've spent with you year by year for the last 5 years is a great place to start. And if you haven't got that, 3 years and a year, and if you haven't got that, you make your best assumptions and then you refine this as the sales come in. Identify the different types of clients, sector, demographic, you know, source of the client. There's lots of different criteria, location, size, turnover, number of staff, all sorts of different things you can take into account here. Obviously, if it's B2C, you'll be delving into the demographics relating to that. Identify which client takes which product or service from your business to into export markets, and you may find that that differs from country to country. Be aware of that, because when you are creating those country pages on your website, you will be wanting to showcase the right products for that right target market, because it may well differ and vary. Identify the probability per client. And I think this is really important, and I haven't talked about this in previous webinars. You know, what is the likelihood that these clients will engage with me and will buy what I have to offer? You know, am I getting good conversion rates from these? Can it be improved? Because if I'm having to engage with loads of customers to actually, you know, convert 10% of them, is this the right client group for me to be focusing on? And then grade each client from A to D. A is a key client, B is potential to be a key client, C is maybe profitable but unlikely to become A, but you might want to keep those in reserve. D is unprofitable, not core, and difficult to work with, so they are the ones that you can ditch, to use the technical term. So how do you really get value out of your analysis? You know, how much are you earning from your top clients on average per year? And it can be really valuable to step back and look at that. And again, in tandem with that, you should actually be looking at, and how much is it costing me to get that sale, and how much is it costing me to convert it, and make sure that you are doing a cost benefit analysis there as well. Are there any trends for the most profitable or least profitable types of clients that you should be aware of? You know, what is this data telling me? And how much are your repeat loyal clients worth to you in total? Because remember that repeat business, 80% of all new business is coming from referrals, recommendations, repeat business, etc. So again, you know, that can be a really lucrative area to focus on. And then I would recommend you put your clients into a client matrix, and this is taking it a little bit further. So profitability on the bottom, least profitability on the right, most profitability on the left, and then enjoyment. Yes, this is about managing your stress and overwhelm and focusing on what keeps you in the flow and firing on all cylinders. So enjoyment, less at the bottom and more at the top. So we are, if we're in the bottom right-hand corner, ditch, you know, they are not that profitable and you're not enjoying them that much. So you're gonna want to get shot. Why are you spending valuable time looking after clients like that? You then have on the left, you know, they're profitable, but you don't really enjoy working with them that much. You just need to make sure that you're not spending too much time on them. Monitor staff if you have them, or just check in with yourself. Yes, it's great, but if you're not enjoying it, then maybe you need to reconsider or keep the numbers of clients that you're dealing with in this box down. Top right-hand corner, they're not profitable, but you really enjoy working with them. Again, box them off so that you're not spending too much time there, because the profitability is not coming in. So I had one chap who loved working with primary schools, for example, not that profitable and very difficult to gauge with because they're so pushed and stretched for time and budget, but he loved working with them. So he said, well, you know, he can have, you know, 3 to 6 clients a year, pending the length of the project, that he would spend and commit time because he loved doing it, but he was going to focus efforts on building sales elsewhere. Or indeed, look at the clients that come into this box and decide what you might upsell or cross-sell to these customers. Can you actually sell more? Have you explored that? Have you had these conversations with people? This can be such a lucrative place to be because, you know, so often we don't take time to go back and look at our databases and explore the potential within them. Much easier to develop what you already have than to actually secure new clients. And then the top left box is where we would really love you to be. Profitability is high, enjoyment is high. So you really need to be getting clear about who you are going to put into this box and who you actually want to keep there, because it's really important that you are both getting the profitability that you deserve, but really enjoying working with the clients that you are targeting. So analyze your options, therefore, really focus in on this. Look at, your credibility and whether you are able to demonstrate that with these clients. Look at the fit. Is this a good fit for them and you? That mutual two-way thing is really important. And does this fire up your passion? Is it something that you love doing? And having that focus will really, really help you out in your international sales efforts. So in terms of passion and reward, what is your best area to specialize in? And getting really, really clear about that in terms of passion and reward will stand you in very good stead. And sometimes, and I think this is really relevant when you're considering new export markets as part of your strategy. It's really important to take a look at this because, where you are dealing with, existing clients in existing markets, it is, easier to engage with them. So these numbers are indicative of the degree of difficulty in each option. So existing clients and existing markets is easy. You should be in your flow there. New markets or channels, existing markets or channels and new products is an added degree of difficulty. Obviously here you are familiar with your new products, so that stands you in good stead, and you're dealing in existing markets, so not that much more difficult. So that new product development is a good place to go. Then we have existing products into new markets, and obviously you have a lot there to start thinking about, researching, getting to grips with in terms of customers and new behaviors and such like. So that will take more effort and energy on your part. It takes more investment. And every time you are looking at developing a new market, we tend to talk about needing to set aside a month for each country or market that you are really taking a strategic, proactive approach towards. So do bear that in mind. You need to have more time there. And this is all about time and enjoyment and productivity, guys. So this is a great matrix to use. And then, of course, we've got new products into new markets, and the degree of difficulty in that option is high. But of course, at some point in time, that will be the right place to go. But you will need to put the effort in terms of time, commitment, and resources to developing, and you're into complete market diversification there. So market penetration, product development, market development, and diversification. So I hope that matrix you will find useful. It's a handy little tool just to crystallize your thinking in terms of your export growth plans. So small reminder about languages, because that also comes into the mix, and I don't want languages to become a stressor. So this needs thinking about. Online, 70% of searches are not in English. However, using native languages in your marketing and sales journey can increase a customer's appetite to buy. The dwell time, if you use native languages, actually doubles if you address them in their native language. And we know 90% of Europeans, for example, prefer to visit local websites. So really important that you get to grips with this and you really do understand customers' preferences and behaviors. So even if they do speak a bit of English, that they're going to want to have you really embracing their country and their culture. So language skills equals higher export sales, fact. Willy Brandt said, if I'm selling to you, I speak your language. If I'm buying, dann müssen Sie Deutsch sprechen. You really need to speak my language. I've shared this slide with you before, available on Internet World Stats, gives you an overview of the top languages to help shape your thinking. And of course, you've got, a stress-free approach to translation projects, scoping out your project, whether you really want to go ahead with it, focusing on key markets. I would recommend starting with 1 or 2 countries and developing that out. And yes, Nicole, really happy to send the slides out to you. We'll make a note of that and get them out. Reducing UK English down to the core essentials, because plain global English that's shorter works harder for you. Your translations will then cost less. Getting your translations translated and then proofread will also stand you in good stead. Making sure that you've got the correct translation, but you've also got the correct turn of phrase and the tone and approach for that particular locality. Involve and inform the team of what you're doing, get them familiar with this, because often that can be a big hurdle, and get their support for the translations and obviously handling inquiries, because you may start getting foreign language inquiries into the business, and dealing with that is very much a process issue, and nailing down a good process where you can get the foreign language support to help you. But it is a lovely problem to have those additional inquiries to deal with, and much that you can do to actually support that. Becoming a language champion in your company. Again, if you have got people who have the language skills, it's good to identify them and get their consensus and agreement to help you with things, and just being generally enthused about this opportunity and sharing the good stuff with your clients. So do hone in on a business case for languages. Is there one there? Consider global English as a different language and rewrite your UK English, simplifying it. And there's a great website called the Plain English Campaign, which can help you do that. This really can be a stress-free approach to language adoption. And of course, change your own self-talk and communication for best results. So really adopt that can-do, positive approach to this, because the opportunities are manifold. It really is very often just about getting the right processes in place. Olusola, yes, we will send the slides out to you, of course, as well. So, quick hits, quick wins. And just 3 small points, because this often tends to get forgotten about. If you are in a bit of a rut and it's quiet and you have taken your eye off the ball in terms of your pipeline, pick the phone up, talk to existing customers, talk to inactive customers you haven't been in touch with a while. Don't sell, but just touch base. How are they? What's going on in their world? Can actually work absolute wonders. Go to your pipeline, check it out, see what you've not moved forward, see what could work really well for you, see what you can pick up and reinvigorate. Go back to your pipeline, take a look at it, and above all, look at those opportunities for cross-selling and upselling. Really, really important. If you are able, have a fire sale. Look at what you can put out there as a carrot, as an encourager, and that can work really well at the moment, particularly if you can create a bit of a community giving back focus. So look at what you can do just to reinvigorate your business development. So 3 really quick tips there for you. So if you do have questions, guys, please drop them into the Q&A box. I would like to just delve now. Phew, that was such a lot to take in. So thank you for staying with me. I would now like to delve into this aspect of change, and let's not go into the detail, but COVID, leaving Europe, you know, it's left us with much more overwhelm and much more to deal with. And we know that we need to communicate better. We know that we need to get better at dealing with change and having that flexibility and plan ahead and be ready for all of these things that are thrown at us at the moment. You know, the question is, how are you and your business adapting and managing to the markets and your customers' rapid and dramatic change in behavior so that you're able to survive and thrive? So what I'd like to go back to is this aspect of feelings and emotions and being stressed and being overwhelmed, because people often prefer not to think about them or talk about them. And we do talk about them every day. You know, my export sales have fallen. What if the shipment doesn't arrive? I'm not feeling that well, but I need to power through because I've got to keep going. Otherwise, my business is at risk. And you know, we know that exports have dipped dramatically. We know that the majority of people are really worried about what's coming in the future and the impact that all of this is having on us. And what we are experiencing is this overwhelm. You know, a lion in the Serengeti chases a gazelle, fight or flight kicks in, it runs, helped by the stress hormones that give it a real boost. It escapes, it survives, and within minutes, that gazelle is back peacefully grazing again. As exporters, we're facing that lion day after day with little time to recover, and the stress hormones stay in our blood typically for 6 to 8 hours. Holding on to that stress really affects our mental and physical health, and it also affects our decision making. The good news is that it can take as little as 2 minutes to start bringing yourself back into balance. And I'm going to share that tool with you in this last session. We practice 2 techniques, heart-focused breathing and the stop it tool, which is so ridiculously simple, but so ridiculously effective as well. So, you know, those negative emotions that thinking about what might go wrong trigger the stress response, which is what we know. And when we trigger that stress response, the front part of the brain, the thinking brain, the part of the brain that we need to be able to use to make good decisions is shut off from our normal thinking processes. So if we are in the present here, you know, we need to understand that we are driven by the past and our patterns of behavior. So if the brain is presented with a problem, it looks to the past, it looks at what we've experienced in terms of the old self, and it will review that and serve up a solution from those experiences. So you can pretty much say what we had is what we're going to get, because there's nothing new coming in there. So, you know, what we want to be doing is in this present now, in the middle here, in that present time, rather than reflecting to the past, we need to be looking at new ways of being and new ways of thinking. And this is very much the aspect of modeling who we want to be, how we want to feel, and how we want to behave in the future. This is so incredibly important, and we focus on that so that we can create a new self, a new way of responding, and a new future. So we're almost doing what great sports people and great entrepreneurs doing. We're really focused on where we're heading and what we want to achieve. We put the past behind us. That's experience. I've learned a lot from that. but I am now going to create who I want to be and how I want my business to be and how I want this to work for me in the future. So creating some good mental health habits, not going into autopilot, really taking control of this, and, you know, bringing in that new thinking and feeling that will serve us well. It's a bit like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. You know, his reality didn't change until he brought in new ways of thinking and feeling. It's as simple as that. So 5% of our brain is our conscious mind. That's our neocortex. You can call it the MD of your mind. We'll have a look at what that looks like in a minute. And then we have the subconscious mind beneath it. So the conscious mind is our thinking. It's the command center. It's where we do that analysis and all of that decision making. The unconscious mind, 95% of our brain, takes care of breathing and eating and digestion and movement and all of those things that we don't need to consciously control. And it is very much the realm of what's happening in the body and all of that feeling. We have 70,000 thoughts per day that are filtered out from the millions that come in by our brain. And actually 70% of those thoughts are actually negative. And by the time we reach the age of 37, scientists say 90% of the thoughts that we have are the same as the thoughts we had the day yesterday and the day before and the day before that. So the subconscious mind is an amazing piece of engineering software. It's programmed, it runs the entire body. And this is where the truly good stuff happens. So in order to change these habits, this past, all of these behaviors that we've learned, we really need to get into that subconscious mind. And we need to be able to do that so that the MD, that 5% of your brain at the very front, can actually take control and say, no, I don't want that. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to feel that. This is what I want to think and feel. And I am now going to work with my brain. It's almost like taking your brain to the gym. I'm going to work with my brain to focus on what it is that I really want and how do I actually influence that. Well, in your brain, you have synapses, they're called. And if you have a thought, it is two electrical charges between two of these synapses. And if you have a thought and you have that thought over and over again, that connection becomes stronger and stronger. So if you want to maintain that thought, just keep on thinking it. It will get stronger and stronger. And I'm sure we've all experienced that in our lives. If we want to stop having that thought, we have to do just that. Stop it. No, I am not going to worry about, you know, what the position is after Easter. When we come out of lockdown, I'm going to really focus on what I want, the good stuff over here, the positive stuff that keeps me in a good frame of mind. So as we say no to that old thought and that old pattern of behavior, these connections between those brain cells disappear, and eventually that negative way of thinking dissipates and the positive way of thinking takes over. Now, I'm not saying this is easy, but it is very simple. But that concerted focus on what you want to create, where you're heading, your vision as an exporter, and giving yourself time to de-stress and to find balance and to focus on that will stand you in really, really, really good stead. So we're creating new habits of thinking and feeling, because we know every time we have a thought, we make a chemical. Our brain instructs the body to make chemicals. And if we have good elevated thoughts, we make chemicals that make us feel good or happy. If we have negative thoughts, the body makes chemicals that go into our bloodstream that make us feel exactly the same way that we feel. So keeping up with that pattern of thinking, as you can see, just increases the amount of chemicals that go into the bloodstream, they come back, and it's that cycle that gets bigger and bigger. And this is what it means to be in a rut. So you take your body to the gym, you're going to train your mind and take that to the gym now as well. It takes practice, but practicing, thinking, acting and feeling your best as much of the day as you can. This is what all the great sports people and entrepreneurs do. And it's really honing into that. So habits, when we're looking to break the habit of being yourself, they are about, repeating those unconscious thoughts and patterns. So becoming present to them and taking notice and saying no and deciding you're going to change it is really, really important. And that way you will get the mind and body working as one. It's almost that, when you've done something so many times, but your body knows how to do it better than you. You drive to work and you don't even know how you've got there, but you're there. So being conscious of those habits and making a concerted effort to really change them is super, super important. So we have the same thoughts, we get the same actions and behaviors and the same feelings. It might be, I'm no good at languages, I'm going to use English instead. I always feel really nervous when I'm talking in languages. And what could it look like? Well, same thoughts, same actions, same feelings. We're going to change them to be different thoughts, different actions, different feelings. I want to impress new clients by doing translation work. I'm going to learn a few words and phrases. I'm excited at the positive feedback. So, I think this is such a great way to think. Maybe you can take that small example and just look at what you might be able to change in your day to day.